What is up, guys? The Gaming here, and today I am bringing you guys another episode on MLB 17, the show. In today's episode, as I'm sure you guys are all aware from looking at the title down below, we are going to be talking about scouting. So, for those of you who don't know, this is your first video. I do a rebuild series on this channel where I rebuild each and every single team in the major leagues. And I feel like when you're rebuilding a team like that, we'll go to the Twins because they have the first pick. I feel like when you go to a team like that, or when you do a rebuild series like that, you really have to work on each and every single part of the team to make sure that you get a full and accurate rebuild. I think that you focus too much on trading, you get a little bit top heavy with contracts, things of that nature. I feel like you just really got to focus on each and every single part of a rebuild, and obviously one of those big parts comes with scouting and comes with drafting. And for those of you who know and watch this series, I'm sure you guys are well aware that I've been quite successful in scouting, and therefore you guys have requested like nobody's business a scouting video. Like I've almost never gotten a request for a video as much as I've gotten a request for a scouting tips video. So without further ado, let's hop into this. This is going to be a pretty much uncut type of scouting video, so I'm not going to be cutting in and out. I'm just going to be simply just doing this the way I do it, the way I do scouting each and every year. And I'll just show you guys without cutting anything out, just so you guys know how I do it, and so you know there's no tips or tricks behind it. Either way, we got kind of screwed with our scouts. We have 4 scouts from the Western region right here. If you look closely under their names, it'll tell you what region they specialize in. 4 Western region scouts is not going to be beneficial for me because obviously there's 3 other areas that you can scout, which are International, Central, and East, and I want those areas. So if you're very focused on the rebuild and scouting, go over here to contracts, go to scouts, and I'll give you an opportunity to look at getting new scouts for your bowl club. So obviously, I'm going to look at which Western scout I like the most. It's probably this one. Usually the salaries represent how good they are. You can obviously look at the stats themselves, but usually the salary is pretty representative of all that. Either way, we're just going to get the best scouts possible to give you guys an idea. So we want the Central Scout. We're going to keep this West Scout. We're going to get this Eastern Scout. So that I think you guys are getting the idea. So you just click X on them, and while you scroll over the person you want to replace them with, and then you click fire this person, hire this, yes, okay. Now we have scouts for 4 different regions. That's always step 1. You want the 4 different regions. Next off, you want to look at what they specialize in. This guy from Central, he's basically equal pitcher and position player wise. So right there, you kind of get to pick your poison and figure out what do you want more on your team specifically, pitchers or a position player. This guy's a little bit more dominant position players. Most of these guys are pretty balanced out. Sometimes though, there's a pretty heavy. What I'm talking about, just so you guys know, is when you look at the 4 stats, it says pitchers and position players. If one is extremely top heavy, like one has 90 position players and 30 pitchers, I recommend you look at position players for that region. Even if you don't need them, likelihood is you'll find a lot better position players, and even if you don't like him as much, you'll probably find a really good one. Sign him, trade him, do whatever you want to do. I'm just telling you that's the best recommendation. If you don't like that, just go to the scouts and get one with better pitchers if that's what you're looking for. Now, I think the Twins have the first overall pick in the rookie draft. So we'll talk about blue chip and the red circles and blue circles. Some of you guys asked questions about that. We'll discuss those in just a second. But for now, let's continue to go into scouting. So usually what I want to do, let's say I'm looking for pitchers. Usually there's a lot more pitchers to be scouted than any other position. If I was looking just purely for pitchers, let's say I want a righty with velocity, you can look at anything you want. There's no tips or tricks here. There's no secrets. Just look for what you want. You know, sometimes you'll get lucky, sometimes you won't. I'm not gonna play the game to you guys and BS you. Sometimes you do get lucky, and sometimes you don't. There's no tips or tricks around it. So if we're looking for pitchers, we're gonna make sure they go to their respective regions. Like this guy's the Eastern region, because they're gonna be more successful in those regions. And let's say we just go righties with velocity. I just personally like righties with velocity. So they won't interfere with each other because they're different regions. So even if they're all righties with velocity, they won't interfere with what pitchers they're scouting. Now, since it's pitchers, it'll take a long time for them to scout all of them. But let's just say, let's go 2 weeks. They're not going to be done scouting by that point. But let's go 2 weeks, hypothetically. Then we go to scouting. And boom, go to scouted. And it'll show you all the players that you've scouted. And it'll show you their accuracy, their ETA, potential overall. Now, the reason I want to discuss this is there's a lot of confusion over who you should be drafting because a lot of people don't understand MLB ETAs. An MLB ETA is a representation of when you expect the player to be an MLB ready player. So for example, this guy's got a 2021 plus ETA. Let's get a better example. Let's say this guy is 80 potential, right? He's got a 2021 plus ETA. You might think, okay, we should draft him because he has 80 potential. That's not the right strategy. The reason you don't want that guy is because he has a 2021 plus ETA. Likelihood is he will never develop into that 80 potential. It's all strategic. So what I do personally when I'm scouting is I base it off ETAs. So I sort by ETA. I go to the 2018 ETAs. I look at the guys with the highest potential, and I send them to the scouts in their respective regions. So I won't do it with all of them. Let's just say I do it with these two, right? Usually it takes about 5 days, so let's sim 5 days. That's usually how I do it. I sim about 5 days, and then check the scout. This guy's taking a little bit longer, or that looks like they're taking maybe 1 extra day. But look, here we go. We already found a phenomenal pitcher here. Lincoln Thurston, 70 overall, 80 potential. This guy's already in his mid-70s overalls, likely. He should be in the, he's good enough to be in the major leagues by next year, or the year after that, because he has a 2018 ETA, and he has 80 potential. This guy will probably be a star pitcher one day. And that's just, I think about it, I only scouted 2. So if I scout 20, and let's say I work at even a less accurate, or a less effective ratio, and I find 5 star pitchers in the draft, you just rebuild your whole entire rotation in one draft. That's something just keep in mind. And you rebuild that rotation with 5 future superstars. So scouting isn't necessarily all that difficult when you understand these few strategies. Understand primarily the tactic of ETAs, the tactic of potential and overall. Make sure you're always scouting for the earliest ETAs first. And make sure you have an accurate amount of time between scouting and when you're looking for players specifically. Typically what I do is, I kind of made an inaccurate example there, but usually let's say I go blah blah blah, go to central, right, clutch, who cares, I'm going to work through this pretty quickly. East, right, clutch for sure. Usually what I like to do is make sure you're constantly checking every week or so and go to acquisitions, make sure that they're not done scouting, you don't want to waste any time. But let's say, okay, so an example, okay, let's say about a week or so. So after I finish this week, I'm going to back out. I'm going to look over here. Has anybody finished their scouting? Yeah, this guy finished his region. So let's give him a new region, or let's give him a new position. Let's give him infielders with contact and power. You just want to make sure you're not wasting any time with your scouts. Understand also when the draft is supposed to be. For those of you who don't know how to check when the draft is, go to your quick menu, which is for PS4, clicking the touchpad. I'm not sure what it is on Xbox or PC, whatever you're playing on. And if you go to roster related, it will tell you amateur draft information, and in this, it will tell you what day the draft is occurring on. For this first year, it will be the 1st of June. So, usually what I like to do is give myself about 3 weeks to a month prior to the draft to actually start focusing on the guys we scouted. So, let's go about a week, blah, 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 blah. And now that we're about a month away, that's when I usually start actually checking and scouting players. So I go to 2018. Oh, this guy's got 80 potential. 2018. Understand, these guys aren't always going to pan out, but when they do, they're the best prospects. That's why I always scout the 2018 ones first. Make sure you get ones for different regions first, and then just come back around for each one. Like this one, once you finish this international prospect, or once you finish this central prospect, come back for this central prospect. Don't do 2 different regions, or don't put a scout in a different region unless you necessarily, unless you have to, unless you guys literally nobody else to scout. Like I said, it normally takes about 5 days, so we submit usually about 5 games. We just lost 2 to 21. That's god awful. And then you look at the currently scouting, and boom, there we go. Another phenomenal prospect. This guy with the 2019 ETA, he's 19 years old, 6'5". This is like another dominant starting pitcher prospect. Now, let me emphasize right now, I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea. I am only scouting pitchers, but that's only to give you guys an idea. You can do the same exact thing with infielders, with outfielders, with whatever position you want. But let me put it in perspective that finding pitchers, I believe, is a lot easier than finding position players. So when I say that, if you find a top-notch position player and you're deciding between a top-notch position player and a top-notch pitcher, I always recommend you go with a position player because pitchers you can find every single year. A top-notch position player is pretty damn difficult to find in this game. So I'm not going to go in that example, but I mean, I could show you guys. You go to Central, you go to whatever position you want. Let's say, usually if I'm looking for first baseman, I know they typically have more power, so I'll look for power players. If I'm looking for shortstops, they're usually faster. I go for speed and contact. If I'm looking for outfielders, you can kind of go with whatever you want with the outfield because that's kind of, outfielders are usually kind of 5-tool players, so you can find anything you want out there. But hopefully you guys got the idea so far about ETA, scouting, regions, how to get scouts, all this stuff. That covers almost everything about scouting. A few more things I want to cover up, though, are the blue chip or the blue circles and the red circles, which represent blue chip prospects. That's what the blue circle represents, and the red circles represent newly found prospects. I don't know if we'll find a red circle around here. Either way, you guys saw the red circle earlier. A red circle just means that a new prospect has popped up in this region and you can scout him. It's nothing special. It doesn't mean anything phenomenal. It just means it's a new prospect for you to scout, and if you have the time, you should probably scout them. A blue chip prospect, however, for those of you who don't know, blue chip in sports usually represents the top of the class. The top, just the very best of the best. So if we go to accuracy, look how many blue chips there are in this draft. This, a blue chip prospect means these are the best prospects in the draft. However, don't get confused and just draft them because they are blue chip prospects. As you can see, if you maintain my original stance on these things, MLB ETA 2021 plus, I will not draft any of these blue chip prospects, although they have the highest potential in the draft. That's usually, if you're a blue chip prospect, you have the highest potential in the draft. That's why I recommend, if you have a chance, you draft a blue chip. But you don't draft them if they have this late of an ETA, because they'll never develop. They just don't. It does not work out for you. I'm just telling you right now, their overalls are going to be in the 40s or 50s. It'll take like 7 years for them to become even in a 70 or 80 overall, and by that point, your rebuild's already over, so it's not even worth it. So, what I usually do is find a position that you actually like. Okay, like right here, right field. That's a tough position to find sometimes. And he's got an ETA of 2019. That's solid. He's got 80 potential. Now, let me say, since he is a blue chip prospect, likelihood is his potential is going to be higher than, for example, this 80 potential, who's not a blue chip prospect. I know it sounds confusing, and there's a whole. I've just done so many drafts. I know the difference in these things. This guy's, although he's 80 potential, his potential is probably going to be like an 88, 87. This right fielder, Mitch Rice, his potential could be anywhere from 90 to 99. Usually, if you're a blue chip, your potential is going to be in the 90s, and I found plenty of 99 potential prospects who are phenomenal. And when they pan out, you have a 99 potential right fielder, 99 potential shortstop. It's a huge building block for your team. Just imagine, it's like drafting a Mike Trout. It's a huge building block. So blue chips are usually what you want to aim for, but if their ETA is too late, do not get them. If their ETA is like 2021 plus, even if it's 2020, like a few years later, I would still recommend you draft them before you get anybody else. But if it's 2021 plus, don't draft them. Just go with whoever else you scouted. So, I'm pretty sure I covered almost everything. I don't think scouting is the most complicated thing. So I'm not going to continue to scout players. I think you guys kind of already got the idea. It's a pretty repetitive thing. Let me say, it's not the most fun thing to scout. It really isn't. It takes about 30 minutes each year, 20 to 30 minutes each year if you're going very, very detailed, which is what I like to do. If you go very detailed in scouting, it will take you 20 to 30 minutes to get a very accurate scouting report on the players you want to draft. Normally, though, it will pan out, as you'll find 2 to 3 solid prospects a year that will turn into high 80s to low 90s overall players, which, to put in perspective, you do that, I don't know, 5 times, and you have a full team of 80s to 90 overalls, and that will send you to the World Series almost every single year. And that's not even focusing on free agency or trading. That's just drafting. So now that we're in the first year player draft, we have the first pick. Let me put this in perspective. Like I said, since we have the first pick, we have a selection of whatever blue chip prospect we want to get. And I had an interest. There's also this good starting pitcher, but like I mentioned, position players are harder to find. So we are going to go with right fielder Mitch Rice. And let me emphasize, if you sign a top-notch free agent, for those of you who don't know, if you sign a top-notch free agent, sometimes you will lose your first-round pick. I just want to make that out there. So here's a perfect example. Now we're going to get this starting pitcher, Lincoln Thurston. He also has 80 potential, but he is not a blue-chip prospect. So when I put that in perspective, although this says they have the same potential, because he is not a blue-chip prospect, usually, like 99% of the time, his potential is going to be lower than the other guy. Same with this guy. He's not a blue-chip prospect, but he's 80 potential. So let's back out of the draft, sign draft picks. Here's an example. Okay, these guys panned out actually to be very good. It's not always this great, but they both have like 90 potential. But this guy, this right fielder, is 93, so he's going to be a bit better because he is a blue chip prospect. Now, sometimes you'll get lucky. You'll score on a 97, 98, 99 potential blue chip prospect, but it's not very common. More often than not, you'll get a low 90s, like a 93. But still, this is a phenomenal prospect to build around. A 69 overall right fielder with 93 potential. Give this guy 2-3 years, he'll be in the high 80s, and this guy will be raking up the league. Same with these guys. This pitcher is a 73 overall. This pitcher's already a 70, and they already have 90 and 89 potential. These guys are already top 50 prospects, and we just drafted them. By the time they're in the league, which will just be a couple of years, they will also just be dominating. So then to sign them, you just click X. You give them just the base contract. They won't ever really deny that. I've never seen a player deny the base contract. You sign whatever ones you want. This guy looks decent. Sure, we'll get this relieving pitcher. And you can just sign whatever. And once you get out of that, you will have to wait a year before they actually show up on your team roster. But that's basically that. I don't think drafting's all that difficult once you get the basis of it. I hope that was beneficial for you guys. If there's anything I forgot to cover, comment it down below. I'll get back to you guys. Like I said, I've done scouting for so long in this game. I basically know the ins and outs of it. So if there's anything that's confusing you guys, just comment it down below. I'll try to immediately get back to it and tell you guys and try to clarify whatever confusion you have about the draft. Hopefully, though, I clarified this and was as clear as possible about how you want to be scouting and the tips and tricks around it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode or the next video that I post. For those of you guys have any other confusion or tips that you want to see me give out on any other sports game like MLB, NBA, Madden, I've done rebuilds and franchises for all those games for so many years. I can give you guys helpful tips, I believe, for any of those games. So I hope this one was helpful for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.